The Last Duel. This film uses incluso as its narrative style, the end calling back to the beginning. It starts with the first charge of a duel between two knights. Then the story is told in flashbacks. I like their way of storytelling very much. There are three main characters in this story: Jane de Courage, Margaret, and Jaco Legolas. This film shows three different point of views from each individual. Everyone has a role to play in the same event. They also shown each different angles and attitudes. Through their own perspectives, we can see the conflicts of human nature, the struggle between power, and the real status of women in the feudal society. The casting of this film is very successful. There are distinct characteristics and clear contradictions for both the appearances and personalities of the three main characters. Courage is the fighting line. Margaret is beauty incarnate. Cruz is a tall, elegant knight with long billowing hair. Not to my liking, but probably considered handsome in France. The heart of this story is Margaret was raped by Grace. After told her husband what happened, Courage asked the royal court to put Grace on trial. But because of the corruption of court and female disadvantage, they were asked to accept guidance from God, trial by combat. They would fight to death in a duel to determine who's guilty. Amongst the three memories, I found some interesting conflicts. Like at the beginning of the film, in Courage's memory, he saved Grace's life in the battle. But according to Grace, it was him who had saved Courage. Since there was no third party in the heat of the battle to witness who saved whom, this issue sowed the seeds of hatred between the two men. They had completely opposite personalities, came from humble upbringings. Grace was a relatively sleek gentleman with a certain gift for mathematics. Therefore, he was held in high regards by the arrogant and corrupt politician Earl Darren, clouded with power. Courage was a knight from a noble family. He was upright, impulsive, and staunch with moral integrity. After married to Margaret, he did not get the fiefs he entitled to, but they were given to Grace, which once again exacerbated the conflicts between them. A year later, the excluded Courage accepted Margaret's suggestion, hoping to resolve the grudge between him and Grace in a friendly manner. But unexpectedly, in the noble party, they sowed the seed of their own downfall. Grace met Courage's beautiful wife Margaret for the very first time, and was deeply attracted to her. In his eyes, Margaret was trying to seduce him, even though she's just being friendly and kind. In the conversation with her best friend, Margaret praised Grace for being handsome, which also carried a foreshadowing of what came later on court trial. Grace couldn't resist Margaret's beauty and her endless love for him. When Courage was out and the castle was empty, he brutally raped her. Margaret fought him hard, screamed desperately, but could not stop Grace for his barbarian act. After Margaret got over her internal fear and struggle, she mustered all her courage and told her husband the truth. As a knight, Courage must fight for the honor of him and his family. Then the story jumps to the courtroom. During the lengthy appeal, Margaret was already 6 months pregnant. She had a big baby bump for her belly. The reason why this trial took so long, and in the end people had to fight to death just to prove the will of God, is because in a feudal superstitious society, it is believed that women would only conceive with child when they felt pleasure. It's supposed to be impossible for women who were raped to become pregnant. Therefore, Margaret must have consented to have sex with Grace. My whole believing system was stunned. From Grace's point of view, I didn't want to commit a crime. It was you who seduced me. He used this as an excuse to justify his behavior. Margaret's best friend came forward and committed perjury, implying Margaret's words were designed with ulterior motives. What struck me most in the film was when Margaret learned that if her husband was defeated in the duel, not only would she face the pain to be a widow, but she and her unborn child would also be tied to the tower and burned alive. This seemingly fair deal was already unfair when it was allowed. The chips on the scale were 3 lives on one side and 1 life on the other. The intertwined stories of the 3 leading characters made me think, our own world is what we think we are, and we have never seen the scenery from the eyes of others, or walked down the roads others had walked. Take our closest blood relatives as an example. Even parents do not necessarily understand their own children, and children do not necessarily understand their parents. From Courrege's point of view, he was confident, powerful, and mighty, and he treated his wife with respect, consideration, and tolerance. But how did Margaret feel about her husband? Selfish, arrogant, and reckless, with little concern for the opinion of others. She couldn't even feel any pleasure when they had sex. It's just to satisfy her husband's impulsive desire. When somebody asked Margaret, had her husband lost, he would be tied to the tower and burned alive. Would she still insist on her current appeal? Margaret did not flinch. She was surprised that her husband had not told her the whole truth, but she overcame her fear. She represents women who fought for her rights in that era. As she struggled, she thought about what Courrege's mother said to her. Who do you think you are? My son may die. All you have done is bring shame to our family. The truth doesn't matter. You look at me as if I were never young. I was raped. And despite my protestations and my revulsions, did I go crying to my Lord, who had better things to worry about? No, I stood up and go on with my life. The end of the film finally returns to the duel. Courrege won. Is this really God's will?